If you have seen the documentary Surviving Ice Age on Netflix, you've probably wondered how humans were able to survive in such harsh conditions. Their survival was dependent upon fire. But what if something happened that prevented them from being able to use their most valuable asset? What if a massive storm destroyed their shelters and extinguished all of their fires? Could they survive without fire? In this video, we're going to find out just how humans survived the Ice Age before fire and fur. Let's get started. One of the things that helped early humans survive the Ice Age was, of course, clothing. However, it wasn't like modern-day clothing that we know today. Clothing back then was not nearly as advanced and was quite different from what people wore. The first type of clothing humans used was animal skins. They would take the skins of animals they hunted and use them as blankets for warmth. This is similar to what some tribes did even up until the 1900s. Of course, they would need some kind of needle and thread to be able to sew the skins together. And this is when the sea otter came in handy. Sea otters were a valuable resource because they had the thickest fur of any mammal on planet Earth. This made them ideal for creating warm parkas and other clothing items. A single sea otter can yield enough fur to make 2 full winter outfits for an adult. Another advantage of sea otter fur is that it has a special coating that makes water roll off of it. This meant that these clothes could stay dry and warm even when worn in heavy rain or snow. It's no wonder that throughout history, there has been many instances where sea otters have been highly prized by indigenous people groups. Some groups would specifically go on hunting trips just for the purpose of collecting sea otter furs. This shows us how important these animals were for keeping people warm during the Ice Age. Of course, wearing animal skins is only one way that people kept themselves warm. Another method was the use of woolly mammoths. Woolly mammoths provided both food and clothing. Mammoth meat could be eaten and its fat could be rendered down into oil and used for cooking. Even the most useless parts of the mammoth, such as the hair, could be used to keep people warm. Mammoth fur was incredibly thick and had hollow hairs to trap air, making them very warm. These hairs could be stripped from the carcass and used to line clothing or make blankets and sleeping mats. Mammoth bones were also a source of material for primitive humans. They could be turned into tools, weapons, and even used to build shelters. So, overall, the woolly mammoth was an extremely useful animal for humans to have around during the Ice Age. Even though humans utilized every part of the woolly mammoth, they still needed a way to kill them. And this is where the spear came in handy. Spears are one of the oldest weapons known to man and were used for thousands of years during the Ice Age. At first, spears were simply sharpened sticks, but as time went on, they became more and more advanced. Humans learned to throw spears and even developed harpoons for hunting aquatic animals. The spear played a major role in the survival of early humans during the Ice Age. Not only did it allow them to hunt woolly mammoths and other animals for food, but it also provided a way to defend themselves against predators. Without the spear, it would have been much more difficult for humans to survive the harsh conditions of the Ice Age. Humans weren't just surviving the Ice Age, they were also reproducing. This must have been quite a challenge since the climate was so harsh and resources were scarce. One way that humans adapted to this was by living in small groups. This made it easier to find food and share resources. It also provided a support system for mothers who were giving birth. Having other members of the group help out made it more likely that the mother and baby would survive. Humans also developed new ways of obtaining food. For example, they began to fish more and also hunted smaller, more plentiful animals. This ensured that they would have a more reliable source of food. Finally, humans began to store food for the winter months. This involved drying meat and storing it in caves or other protected areas. By taking these steps, humans were able to adapt to the harsh environment of the Ice Age and ensure the survival of their species. However, there was another predator stalking humans during the Ice Age, and it had a massive set of jaws and teeth. Its name was Smilodon fatalis, aka the saber-toothed cat. Smilodon fatalis was a large saber-toothed cat that lived during the Pleistocene epoch. It was one of the most feared predators of its time and preyed on humans as well as other large mammals. Smilodon fatalis had long, sharp teeth that were perfect for catching and killing prey. They would ambush their prey and then use their powerful jaws to deliver a fatal bite. There have been many instances where Smilodon fatalis attacks have been depicted in movies. However, they were not always accurate. In reality, Smilodon fatalis was much more agile than what you might see in movies. They were able to climb trees and were excellent swimmers. This made them even more dangerous because humans could not escape them in some areas. Humans fought back against the Smilodon fatalis using spears and other weapons. They were also able to work together in groups to take down these cats. Despite their ferocity and power, the Smilodon fatalis eventually went extinct, likely due to a combination of factors, including changes in climate and the loss of its prey. But this wasn't the only threat humans had to face. There were many dangers that humans had to overcome in order to survive. Floods, for example, were a constant threat during the Ice Age. As the glaciers melted, the water would often cause massive floods that could wipe out entire settlements. Humans had to learn how to build boats and navigate rivers in order to survive. They also had to learn how to fish in order to obtain food during times when the floods made hunting difficult. Volcanoes were also a major problem during the Ice Age. There were many large volcanic eruptions that caused widespread destruction and killed many people. Humans had to learn how to predict volcanic eruptions and evacuate when necessary. They also had to learn how to deal with the aftermath of a volcanic eruption, such as ash and debris. Earthquakes were also a common occurrence during the Ice Age. They could cause massive damage to settlements and disrupt the food supply. Humans had to learn how to build earthquake-resistant structures and grow crops that could withstand earthquakes. As the Ice Age continued, the climate began to change. This caused many problems for humans, such as food shortages and the spread of disease. Humans had to learn how to adapt to these changing conditions in order to survive. They began to grow crops that could withstand the colder temperatures and also developed new ways of hunting and gathering food. They also had to deal with the psychological effects of living in such a harsh environment. Many people suffered from depression and other mental health problems as a result of the constant struggle to survive. Humans had to learn how to cope with these challenges and develop new ways of maintaining mental health during the Ice Age. In conclusion, humans were able to survive the Ice Age through a combination of factors. They were able to adapt to the changing environment, develop new technologies, and maintain their mental health despite the many challenges they faced. While many other species went extinct during the Ice Age, humans were able to make it through and eventually thrive. We owe our survival to the innovations and adaptations we made during those difficult times. If we had not been able to adapt, we may not have made it through the Ice Age. But thanks to our ingenuity and determination, we were able to not only survive, but also thrive. Now watch. Neanderthals vs. humans. Who was the stronger ancient human? Or check out how did humans evolve? The science behind it all.